Beaver Sports Talk is brought to you by McMenamin's Pubs and Breweries, your neighborhood place for family and friends. Now with 2 pubs in Corvallis, your Northwest Dodge dealer. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. Regents. We are all connected and thousands strong. Regents. Together, we can take charge. The dairy farmers of Oregon say, check your fridge. Got milk? Safety of all-wheel drive standard. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. By State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And by Reese's. With Reese's, you've got it made. Now, here's the voice of the Beavers, Mike Parker.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Beaver Sports Talk from McMenamin's on Monroe, the start of a new year, and great to have you with us on the Beaver Sports Radio Network. The students are back. A few of them are celebrating the return of school here at McMenamin's. You're welcome to join them this evening, 7:05 to 8 o'clock. We'll be here along the Beaver Sports Radio Network talking OSU men's and women's basketball. We'll start with Coach John in a moment. We'll also visit with LaVonda Wagner. We will meet this week's everyday champion from the OSU men's rowing team, and we'll get to all of that as we go tonight. Look forward to your phone calls if you have any questions or comments along the way for either of the coaches. The Dutch Bros Sports Talk hotline is available, toll free at 877-600-6433, 877-600-6433. We'll also pass along some information along the way about baseball and wrestling, and let you know that the Oregon State football team ended the season ranked in the top 25, number 21 in the Associated Press and number 22 in the coaches poll. But we are transitioning fully now. It was hard to let go, but we've moved forward completely into basketball and some of the other sports that are taking center stage at Oregon State, and we'll be talking about those tonight with you on Beaver Sports Talk. Coach John will join us next. Some big news about the OSU men's basketball program that many of you have already heard about with regard to C.J. Giles. We'll talk to Jay a little bit about that and about the trip back to his old stomping grounds, his hometown of Tucson, and Lute Olson's Arizona Wildcats Thursday night. Great to have you with us from McMenamin's on Monroe, and we'll be right back with Coach John after this on the Beaver Sports Network.
I'm Adam.
Welcome back to Beaver Sports Talk along the Beaver Sports Radio Network. Mike Parker, happy to be joined tonight. Please welcome Oregon State men's basketball coach Jay John to Beaver Sports Talk this evening. McMenamin's on Monroe and all along the Beaver Sports Radio Network. If you have any questions or comments as we go tonight for the coach, toll free 877-600-6433 on the Dutch Bros Beaver Sports Talk hotline. Well, Coach, let's start with the fact that today you had a young man participate in practice for you, a transfer from Kansas, C.J. Giles. And first of all, you had a press conference yesterday and dealt with a lot of the particulars of that. But seeing him on the floor today for the first time, I don't know how long it's been since he's actually played. How did the big fellow look?
It's been a while since he played, and without any question, he was still the most dominant big guy on the floor. It's not even close, and it's not knocking other guys. He's just a major talent, and it elevated the spirit in practice, and it will continue to do that.
And you, as you outlined yesterday, you've had a relationship with this young man for almost 4 years now,
yeah,
going back to his days at Rainier Beach High School. But for those who may not have heard the press conference, give us in a nutshell, Jay, just how far back you go and your thoughts about bringing him into Oregon State.
Well, when we first got hired here, Brian Lloyd, assistant, had a good relationship with people at Rainier Beach. He had recruited at that high school when he was at Portland State, and CJ was somewhat underneath the radar, and so we started to get to know him. It was at the end of his sophomore year, and developed a really good relationship even through his junior year. We were in good stead there. Then the summer between his junior and senior year, he hit the national scene, and it was over. And so, but we kept a good relationship, and all of those things were positive. And when the situation occurred at Kansas, they actually called us, and it just what we needed to find out, because we really hadn't had a whole lot of contact with him over the past 2.5 years. We just had to find out if his soul, in our view, was the same kind of situation that he was when we knew him before, and I think we felt he was very, very remorseful in what had happened, and owning up to the mistakes that he's made. He does genuinely, I believe, feel bad about what people think about him, and so this gives him a fresh start. What I think is a situation at Oregon State and in Corvallis where people are going to embrace him, and he does. He wants to do things right. He wants to get things right, and he wants to graduate, and he wants to be the best basketball player he can be, and that's how he wants people to remember him at Oregon State. And if the graduation part is something we keep working on, and if he becomes the best player he can be, then that's going to be unbelievably good.
I spoke today with a man, Dan Jurdy, who had been is the athletic director at Rainier Beach High School, has been there for 20 years, has known CJ since he was a little guy growing up, and it was encouraging to hear from somebody that went out of his way. And he said he wouldn't do this for some of the student athletes that come through there through the years, but he felt really compelled to let everyone in Beaver Nation know that, because of his affection for and regard for C.J. Giles, that while everyone, including C.J., acknowledges some mistakes have been made, some poor decisions have been made along the way that perhaps have brought him to the point of needing to change schools, the clear conviction that C.J. Giles wants a fresh start, wants to take advantage, and is grateful for the opportunity you, Coach Lloyd, and Oregon State have given him, that the assurances I received today from Dan Jurdy at Rainier Beach, really, I think, for me, and I think maybe for a lot of people who may have heard him talk, I think that helped settle things down. And you did a lot of research over the last 5 weeks to make sure this was the right thing for him and for Oregon State.
Well, there's no question about that. That's our job. I think we any time we get into a recruiting situation, we try to do as much research as we possibly can, and we had already a prior relationship, so that was, we already had a foundation from which to start, so that made it a little bit different than just something, here's a phone call, blah, 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 and then people are telling you stuff that, you don't know whether to believe it or not. So, but this was real good, and it's going to be great for Oregon State. great for our basketball program.
We will get to your calls tonight as we go. We want to let you know that we'll be on the air 5 o'clock this Thursday from the McHale Center Pacific time in Tucson as the Beavers take on the Arizona Wildcats. And our first call tonight on the Dutch Bros Beaver Sports Talk Hotline has to do with Washington State, the ability for the Cougs to beat Arizona the other day, and just the good things that are going on up there on the Palouse. Don from Portland, good evening. Welcome to Beaver Sports Talk.
Yeah, howdy, guys. Quick comment about Saturday. The less said about it, the better. It's one thing to be outmanned talent-wise, but there's no excuse for sloppy fundamentals. But I wonder if the coach is surprised at Washington State's turnaround this year, 3 years into the Bennett's program. And Holland says they're for real, and also they beat USC in Los Angeles and beat Arizona, so they look like they're for real. I wonder if he's surprised by that turnaround.
No, I'm not surprised. This would be the fourth year of a Bennett coaching Washington State, and the first 3 years those kids had to take their lumps, and they took them hard. But it's been a group that stayed together and fought together, and as juniors have really, juniors and seniors, have really progressed, and they are for real, and kudos to them. They've done a good job, and so they are. They're the real deal.
Jay, as you've prepared for Arizona this week, and you obviously have looked a lot at that tape, maybe even watched some of it as it unfolded, what did you see that Washington State was able to do to knock off Arizona in Pullman Saturday?
Well, they shot the ball unbelievably well. They really did, and I think they caught Arizona threw a lot into the Washington game, and I'm not sure that they were prepared, all the way for the type of intense situation that was going to be at Washington State. And I know that Arizona plays in a number of quality games all the time, but you go from Washington to Washington State in terms of the playing, whichever way you do it, and it's a lot of times until you face the team, you think of them what they were before, and then Davin Hammerling, he didn't play last year; he was hurt, so it's hard to feel how well he can shoot. Well, I mean, he has 7 threes, and the last 3 he had was from like 27 feet, 25 feet at the end of the shot clock. So I mean, it's like, holy mackerel, he didn't know he could do that. So I think some of that is what happened, is what has happened, and Derek Lowe's playing better than he ever has. He's been hurt parts of each of the last couple of years, and so they're good. They're for real.
We'll take a break and talk about the dynamics in the Pac-10. Always difficult on road trips, and when you're taking on great teams such as the Beavers did this past weekend. Trying to harness the energy and so on for 40 minutes in 2 games is not an easy thing to do. The Beavers found that out a little bit on their own right this past weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that. If you have any questions or comments for Coach John tonight, toll free at 877-600-6433, 877-600-6433. That's the Dutch Bros Beaver Sports Talk hotline at McMenamins on Monroe on the Beaver Sports Radio Network.
I don't know much about art.
All right, everybody, welcome to Beaver Sports Talk. Thanks for coming out on another rainy night here in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to give away T-shirts and a sweatshirt. The sweatshirt will be the last thing we give away. If you are in possession of ticket number 2529, you win the first T-shirt of the night. 2529. Thanks for playing, by the way.
Welcome back to Beaver Sports Talk from McMenamins on the Beaver Sports Radio Network. Thanks for joining us tonight. And again, we'll be visiting with David Weir coming up shortly, this week's everyday champion from the rowing team. And it looks as though he's brought some friends with him tonight. So we'll talk to David in a few minutes. Lavonda Wagner will join us. Some big games coming up this weekend here at Ralph Miller Court at Gill Coliseum, beginning with 11th-ranked Arizona State Thursday night. Big showdown and opportunity for the Beavs. And, of course, this Thursday, the Beavers will be in Tucson at the McHale Center against Lute Olson's team. And, Jay, I know this is always it's a trip for you that it's maybe a bit of a balancing act because you do have friends, longtime friends, people you went to school with that come out and see you, but you're there on a business trip. You also have great affection for the guy you're trying to beat Thursday night and great admiration for Lute Olson. And you know that Lute, with his team coming off a loss, is going to be pretty fired up. So maybe not the best of circumstances to be heading in.
I was cheering for him pretty hard Saturday night. I'm going to tell you that. Right. When Rudinovich hit the three at the end of the regulation, I'm like, this outstanding.
Right.
And but in any case, now it is a I thought you were going to use my word bittersweet. I mean, but it is that. I mean, I do have family and friends that are looking forward. I'm looking forward to seeing, but yet at the same time, emotionally, it's hard for me to invest in anything but the game. And so away we go. And he's got a great team. It might be the best team. The first year I was here, they had the team that went 17-1 in Pac-10, and ended up losing in the Elite Eight. This team may be, they may be right there with it.
Yeah. In terms of the gauntlet that the Pac-10 conference is, the way it started for you guys in terms of dealing with Oregon, dealing with UCLA, fighting so well against UCLA and being right there a point back with about 2 minutes to go in the first half, then to have to come back emotionally, physically against a very talented, athletic, physical USC team on Saturday wasn't the easiest proposition. But after those three, now it's Arizona. Pretty good conference, isn't it, Jay?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't add up the wins that those four programs would have, but I got a feel for the losses. Overall, I think that the combined record of the four teams we're playing, there's only 7 losses, and 3 of those teams just won. But that's nature. That's the games come. We got to go. We got to play. We got to fight. We got to get better. And I do think that we left some things on the table energy-wise against UCLA, but that's not an excuse. Our guys have got to understand the intensity level that takes place in this league, and they've got to be able to focus their minds on getting rid of some things from a Thursday night game and being ready to go on Saturday.
Jay, what are the things with Arizona this week, the biggest keys you're going to have to execute and perform to give yourselves a chance on the road against a great team, as you gave yourself that opportunity against the number 1 team in the country for a lot of stretches of that game? What do you have to do against Arizona?
Well, I do feel that from a defensive standpoint, it's basic. It's not as, when the team that shoots the ball, I think they're shooting 55% from the field. In conference play, almost 50% from 3, but they're going to miss. We got to rebound that first miss. That's a big deal. And on the offensive end, we need to be able to execute. We need to be execute offense and get shots. Their starters play a ton of minutes, and in many cases, they're averaging 88 points a game in conference, but yet they're giving up 81. So A lot of it is to try to outscore you to win, but they're tremendous scorers. So, those are the things we've got to be able to do and ensure that we're just making smart, wise decisions with the basketball, which we've done for the most part, throughout the season. But we would go a little sloppy against USC, but but we haven't been on the road in a while too. So I mean, we got that thing to deal with. We got to be able to step up.
Jay, when you talk about their starters playing a lot of minutes, that's certainly true for your team, and your rotation seems to have narrowed somewhat against UCLA. It was about 7 guys getting the bulk of those minutes. How do you feel about how guys are responding? Because you're challenging them in ways they haven't really, some of them, in terms of minutes.
Well, I think we did the same thing against Oregon also. It was largely 7 minutes or 7 guys in rotation. But those are the guys that understand the competitive level offensively, defensively. And while we opened up the rotation a little bit more on Saturday, and I'm not sure that I'm very pleased with what the results were. Mm-hmm. We fought pretty hard for 16 minutes in USC. USC was playing extraordinarily well, shooting the ball very, very well, hard shots. Right. But the last 4 minutes, we had a few different guys in the lineup, and I wasn't pleased with how that went. The game got away from us. So. If the guys that come in cannot produce well there and defend, then we may just have to stay with 7, and that's what we get. That's what we have to do, and that's what we'll do.
Jay, last thing for you, and that is before we take a break, we'll meet David Weir, this week's Everyday Champion, then Coach Wagner will join us. I wanted to ask you about just a quick thought. I know right now the scouting and the game plans for Arizona and the Wildcats, but Herb Sendek, I don't know how much attention you've been able to pay or how many games or tapes of them. But what's going on with Arizona State basketball? It's early in his era, but what are your thoughts about the type of basketball that he's brought to the Valley of the Sun?
Well, I really, in all honesty, haven't had a chance to watch any of the games. I watched a lot of games when he coached at North Carolina State. I think he's a great coach. And certainly within their program, they're in a transitional phase. But yet they have enough. There's enough guys back from last year's team. Pendergraph is he was all league, freshman, one of the top freshmen in the league last year. I mean, he's a very, very good player, and Serge Angiuno is a 5th-year guy. I mean, they still have some holdovers from last year, and so but they're in a transitional phase also, but I think he's an outstanding coach.
And that game Saturday, not getting ahead of ourselves, but you get the sense that you're going to have 2 teams in there that really will be fighting, clawing hard. I know your team will have that mindset to go get a win in this conference.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. So, Jay, we wish you well in that quest. Thanks for joining us tonight,
yep.
Coach. Let's hear it for Oregon State men's basketball coach Jay John joining us on Beaver Sports Talk. We will take a break. We'll come back with this week's Everyday Champion. He's David Weir. We'll meet him next, and then visit with LaVonda Wagner as Beaver Sports Talk continues from McMenamins on the Beaver Sports Network.
You'll find